Welcome back to the Money Focus Podcast. I'm your host, Moses the Mentor. And in this episode, I bring you Phebe Trotman. She's a distinguished athlete and entrepreneur. She has not only excelled on the soccer field, but also in helping others unlock their full potential. She's here to share her insights on perseverance, empowerment, and also her book, which is titled Never Quit on a Bad Day. So let's dive into her inspiring story. Let's go.
The first thing I always ask my guests to do is to really walk us through your career journey and just ultimately how you started your business and wrote your book. Floor is yours.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me on the show. It really is an honor to be here and just excited to connect with you and the listeners and people watching in. So my journey is an interesting one because like most people, I think it took a lot of twists and turns and it's still taking twists and turns, if you will. So my background's in athletics. I've played high level soccer from a very, very young age, went to university, graduated with a degree in kinesiology and nutrition. And then I took a position right out of school. And I was working full time while I was playing soccer. And I just felt really uninspired at my position back then. And so I started a bunch of side projects. Like I really just wanted to continue to learn and grow. And I'm so grateful I started those side projects, even though my original plan was to wait until the income from the side projects built up and then I'd transition out. And it had a different, again, one of those twists where the company I was working for went bankrupt and I was laid off and I had some oh boy, and we can unpack that a little bit as we go. But that was kind of when I decided, okay, this is where we're going with the entrepreneurship. And thankfully, I had, again, one of those projects was a network marketing business that I had started, and I didn't initially plan on building it as a business yet. When I was at those crossroads in terms of being laid off, then I decided, when I looked forward into what my life wanted to look like, I decided that was the route to go.
It's amazing how something that can be deemed like a negative really spearheads something so much more fruitful and positive, because, layoffs, when people hear that, they immediately say, oh, what am I going to do, right? Mm-hmm. So talk to us about how did you, you said you felt kind of uninspired when you were working and also playing soccer. So what were some of the things in the workplace that you really dreaded in particular where you knew I had to start another side business?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I was doing, I was working at a computer company and we were doing online learning programs. So the content for these programs. And so I got hired on because my background in sports and a lot of the materials we were doing were sports related. However, it transitioned. And so, some of the stuff I was working on, I really just didn't have an interest in. It ended up being a position where I often was just editing websites, literally staring at websites and catching typos. And so I just felt that I wasn't continuing. I love to grow. I love to learn. I love to be challenged. Soccer is such a sport where you're just going after, you have this common goal with your teammates. And so I just felt that at my job, I wasn't continuing to grow. I wasn't feeling challenged. And so, I realized that I was going to have to find that elsewhere. And I was definitely still grateful for the job because, and that's something I want people to understand is even if you're not loving the position that you're at in life or at your position and job, find something to be grateful for. And I was grateful for the fact that I had a paycheck that was coming in that let me do other things. And then I found that fulfillment in terms of learning and growing by starting these side projects. I started learning about real estate investing and investing in real estate. I started my own coaching company for soccer with a teammate, and we were, teaching younger players how to play soccer. And so I found other ways to get that challenge and to continue to grow and learn while I was still working at my full-time job. And I encourage people to do that if you're, if you are feeling a little bit like you're not finding the joy necessarily in what you're doing as a career or your full-time, can you start something else that will continue to give you that fulfillment and growth and challenges in your spare time, if you will?
I mean, in my experience, I can't speak for everyone. In the workplace, most people really don't like their job. And, it's pretty obvious, but at the same time, when layoffs are happening, they're fearful, so which one is it? So it's really more about the financial impact. So what you said about having something else that motivates you, that's where you can't rely on your job being the end all be all for you. You have to say, hey, I'm here to perform the job. I give, 100%. I work with integrity. but I have something else going on outside the job. Like the job is not my life. So I think that's where that appreciation comes in to where you're saying, hey, this job enables me to have a roof over my head, food in my belly, to be able to take my family on a vacation. That's sort of the ability to be grateful should kick in. But, you do have to have some other things going on to make sure that you're well-rounded across the board. So I
Absolutely.
agree. So being an athlete, a high-level athlete, like you mentioned, in soccer, which is extremely brutal physical sport, but an ultimate team sport. How did that transition from the athletic world to full-time entrepreneurship? How did that work for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. One thing I want to just comment that you said that I think is super important, what you said earlier about the job. Even if you're not fulfilled in it, still give 100%. I think that's something that's just so important to reinforce, that you still want to give it your all, because it's those habits that you get into that will transfer over. And so in terms of my transition from athlete to entrepreneur, if you will, it's funny because I was using a service initially for my coaching, my soccer coaching business. And then when I was laid off, and I kind of looked forward, and I always encourage people, like, look forward. What do you want your life to look like? And when I did look forward, I realized that there were certain things that I wanted in terms of whether it's a business or a job, et cetera. And so this network marketing business would allow me to do that. Part of it was being flexible in terms of my time and being able to travel and kind of still work from anywhere. And so when I decided, in this, that I'm going to build this business full time, if you will, it's interesting because I didn't initially take that same mindset as an athlete and transfer it over. And what I mean by that is all of a sudden I was an entrepreneur, and I kind of felt like, okay, well, I'll work a little today. Tomorrow I might just go for lunch or do this or do that. And then I'd work a little bit more, and then I'd take some time off. So I didn't initially transfer some of those important things that I learned as an athlete, which is discipline, which is consistency, accountability, and when I didn't have the results that I wanted, I think in my mind as an entrepreneur, and this can sometimes happen when we're go-getters, you're just like, well, it's just going to happen automatically. Like, it's just going to be easy and it's going to happen. And it wasn't that initially. Yeah, right. It just, sometimes we feel like that. And so once I had this kind of accountability gut check moment, I realized, well, if I wanted consistent results, I have to put in consistent activity. And so once I really started to bring those, skills that I learned as an athlete in terms of that accountability and consistency and, doing the thing, committing to it, then I started to see those results. And so that's why I wanted to circle back with what you shared about 100% in your job, even if it's not where you want to be, because that skill, if you will, or that attribute of being consistent and giving it your all will transfer over into every area of your life. And so once I kind of accepted the entrepreneur hat and took those lessons, then the results started to come.
Discipline, what I've learned in my life, and hopefully it's got a lot more living to go, is that, man, really when it boils down to discipline is key. Because everything that I do well in life, I'm disciplined. Now, you're the athlete. So, I know you work out and eat well. So I need to be disciplined on working out more, eating better. But when it comes to like my money management, running my business, especially my real estate business, it's some true disciplines. Doing a podcast, tremendously disciplined if you're doing it right, because you have to be orderly, you have to, set everything up, especially if you don't have a team. So, but I would just say discipline is really key for anyone that's watching or listening. Apply discipline anywhere you're looking for success, and it'll come for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. What would you say is like one of the top obstacles that you face in both sports and also in business so far?
Yeah, I think one of the things I learned very early on that has helped me. I mean, one obstacle, when I talk about it in the new book, and part of the reason behind all this is because I feel like I've just learned so much over the journey. And it's when I didn't make a team. I went out for this team and fully expected to make it because on my community team, I was one of the top players. And unfortunately, I didn't make it. And I was devastated. And I mean, when I say devastated, I cried and cried for a couple of weeks, if you will. And And finally, like my parents kind of had that tough love moment where it was like, okay, well, what do you want to do next with soccer? Like, are you going to let one coach's decision determine your future in soccer? And kind of what can, and at the time, obviously, you know, I was 13, 14 years old. It was tough to hear those words, but I'm so grateful that they had that conversation because it helped me shift my mindset into focusing on what I can control. And what I can control is my effort, my mindset, as you talked about discipline, right? There's certain key things that I can start to focus on to control to help me. And so having that lesson very early on and, you know, not making it has served me well over the years, because in that I realized that I wanted to be an impact player on whatever team I play on and really truly make the most of the opportunities that have given on the field, whether it's 5 minutes or 90 or overtime or whatever it is. And so that served me well in the long run. And I think sometimes when we look back on some of those tough moments, as we talked about earlier, the tough moments is where we grow the most. The tough moments is where, and what we do with that tough moment is really what I believe where the champion comes out in all of us, because we have a choice. We have a choice on what we can do with the situation. You know, the situation is what it is, right? At the end of the day, I didn't make that team. That was what happened, but what did I do next is what can determine the lesson that we learn in and how it serves us well in the future. So definitely that. And then in terms of like my business, you know, there's so many moments you want to go things to happen on your own time. It's like, okay, well, I'm doing you know, once I got that mindset of being accountable and consistent and staying on track with activities, now it's like, well, I want the result and I want it now. And sometimes it doesn't work that way, right? There's a time for everything, and learning to focus on the tasks at hand, knowing that eventually the result will come. The challenge is we don't always know when that result's going to happen, but if we do the right things consistently and trust that process, it will happen.
Well, it sounds like you should never quit on a bad day.
There you go.
There we go, right? So that great title is the title of your book, Never Quit on a Bad Day. So why don't you just tell us about your book?
Absolutely. So Never Quit on a Bad Day is a book series. It was a planned book series. And really the premise behind the book is that we all go through tough times. We always do. Every single one of us, right? And in those challenges that we talked about, there's, you know, let me back up a step. I guess a big part of it is oftentimes we can look at other people and see their successes and just be like, well, you know, we're happy for them, or some people might not even be, but it's looking at them and going, well, they've had it easy, good for them, not really knowing the story behind the story. And Never Quit on a Bad Day really is that. It's the story behind the story. It's a story of someone, you know, it's a collection of short stories of, you know, different people sharing some of their tough moments when they might have wanted to quit, why they didn't quit, and what did they do, most importantly, to push through that day. Because, you know, even if the situation that we go through isn't the same, there's still lessons and there's still concepts and tools and ideas that we can apply to our own life to help us push through that day. And so that's really what the books are about. The first one launched last July, featuring stories from entrepreneurs. And it's this exciting book. You know, we've received a lot of positive feedback on it because it's sharing, again, the behind the scenes of what someone goes through. This one that just released just a few days ago now. And that one's featuring short stories from incredible athletes on what they've gone through and how did they push through. And that's a part that is powerful for the reader, because you get a chance to kind of think back on your own journey. And there's sections for the reader to actually reflect and write about their own journey on how they've been able to move through things, I should say, as well, too.
Nice. And the series applies, it doesn't matter, because you mentioned that the first series is for spotlighted entrepreneurs, but the second one is focusing on athletes, but anyone can read out a series, correct? It's not just for athletes.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. One of the things that I say, this book series is truly for anyone who has a goal or a dream, has worked towards that, or maybe you haven't even started, but you have a goal in your dream and you know there's going to be bumps along the road. There's going to be pivots. There's going to be detours. There's going to be, speed bumps, if you will. It's for people who have goals and dreams and want to work through them and just understand that you're not alone in it and pick up some ideas and strategies to help you when you're going through the tough time. How do you reframe that? How do you turn that around and move forward from it?
And are there any strategies in the book that kind of help people understand resilience when it comes to their personal and professional goals?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so one of the things with the book, every chapter is a short story. And at the end of every chapter is a section called Reflections on Resilience. And that's where we take something that comes out of the story and we break it down in a little bit more detail for that reader to apply to their own life. And so one of the ones that pops out is the power of what we say, what we talk, what we say out loud, what we say to ourselves. This comes up in both books, and we break it down in different ways in both the books. One, and then we talk about the language. Like, are the words you're using, is it success-based language or is it limiting language? For example, the word try. And I want to encourage people to think of this word. If you're deciding to start a business or your podcast, for example, if you said, well, I'm going to try and start a podcast, or I'm going to try and go to the gym tomorrow, or I'm going to try and go to this. When we use the word try, we're literally giving ourselves an out right then and there, versus I am going to the gym today. I am starting a podcast. I am like, so just even a switch as simple as that. And we break through in that chapter, and there's a table that says limited language, success language, and just even small replaces, like changing how we speak, what we're saying to other people, what we're saying to ourselves can help you move forward along your journey in a different way, because now you're saying it in strength, you're saying it in confidence, and you're more likely to hold yourself accountable when you're not giving yourself an out with that word try.
Well, I'm definitely going to get the book for my wife. First of all, she's an avid reader and she loves to actually take notes. So I love the fact that you incorporated that into the book in itself. So that's pretty cool. So definitely we'll do that. Do you have any success stories from any of the readers that you would love to point out that really stood out for you?
Yeah, you know what? The feedback from the first book has been amazing. And the second book as well. We have a small group of advanced readers, if you will. So there's a small group of people who've already read it and they've started providing reviews. I think the biggest takeaway that I've gotten in reading the reviews, number one, I'm just grateful for everyone who's taken a moment to write a review. The ones that have like moved me the most are the ones where they're saying like, they're feeling stuck in terms of their own goals and dreams, and reading this book helped them move forward. It gave them, especially with the workbook part of the book, if you will, it helped them move forward with certain things. It helped them, the limiting language versus success language, the fact that people are replacing it and finding success in that's just a small shift that's helped them. So those have been some of the things that have been really rewarding, just seeing all the reviews and the positive feedback from people who now are and biggest thing too is they're knowing they're not alone. Like they're going, okay, I can do this. That person went through struggle too. I can keep going on my way, because I know that it is sometimes a timing thing. It is a process thing. If I can stick to the processes that I need to do, the result will come. And so that's been really exciting. And then with the latest book featuring stories of accomplished athletes, just again, the advanced readers, what they've said and how excited they are for other people to read it now too, has been really exciting.
And what is your future plans as far as the series? Like, how many series do you foresee, or is it pretty much in the air?
Yeah, so with the book series, when I initially decided it was going to be a book series, first I had 4 books in kind of my mind, so 2 down, 2 more to go, if you will, and then from there we'll see. We'll see what happens next. There might be a desire to continue and to write more along the series. It may be a pivot to something else, but it's been a really fun journey. I've been learning a lot. I've been inspired. Like the stories and lessons that have come out have just been incredible. And it's all stuff that I do every single day in terms of the lessons that are in there are real stuff, because again, we all go through challenges. I mean, I was sharing just briefly a little bit some of the stuff I'm going through personally right now, and it's very challenging. And I have to remind myself to find the things to be grateful for. I've had to remind myself to stay on task with certain things that I've committed to doing. And so I just encourage people to get the book, dive in, read it with a pen so you can make notes in those workplaces. And then I'd love to hear what their thoughts on it and how it's helping them.
Perfect. When it comes to, because it sounds like, you got a lot going on. An author, you're an entrepreneur. I'm sure you're probably still doing a lot of things athletically. So you have a lot going on, right? So how do you manage being a high performing person in all those areas in your life without, how do you do that and at the same time manage the stresses that go along with it?
Yeah, great question. So I feel like everybody knows how much they can take on. And that's something you learn with time, with your own personality and whatnot. I do well in when I have different focal points, if you will, in terms of, yes, I do still do stuff athletically. I oversee a program for kids for soccer. I do still play. So I have that. I have the book. I have my business, if you will. And so one of the things that I do, I definitely make sure I have time for me time, if you what like so time out when I can just recharge, spend time with friends and family, my partner, and just really just kind of take a step back and just have that time, because it is important. You need to pour from a full cup, and if you're not full, it's going to be very hard to be able to help other people. So that is definitely something that I do. I'm very intentional with that time to make sure I have that. And that being said, I do now work from a lot of lists, and so I focus on those tasks, because it is easy to get overwhelmed. It is easy to be like, oh my gosh, I gotta do this and this and this and this. So I find when I can write it down, when I can put pen to paper and see, okay, here's what I need to do for this group, for this project. Here's what I'm doing for this project, and here's what I'm doing for this one. Download it from my mind so that my mind's not going like this all the time. Put it on pen to paper, and then I just work through it. I work through those lists. I realize that, I am a human. There are going to be times where I'm feeling a little bit more, less is better for me to do at that particular time. And then there's going to be times where I'm like, let's go, leading up to the book launch, it's been extremely full plate. That being said, same thing. I just make lists in terms of what I need to do and then focus on the tasks that I need to get done.
And you spoke about being able to pour into others. So, which kind of leads to my next question. My name is Moses the Mentor. So I'm a spokesman of mentorship. So I wanted to know, what role did mentorship play in your life? And also, how do you, in turn, mentor others? How has that been for you?
Yeah, I love that. And I love Moses the Mentor. As soon as I saw that initially, I was like, Moses and I need to talk, because I just love that. So mentorship, I feel like, can come in different ways. You can have very structured mentorship, which is, might be through a coach in terms of scheduled calls, and that's something that is very structured. And I believe there can be mentorship that isn't as structured and a little bit less formal, if you will. And so I've participated in both in terms of me having mentors. I'm so grateful for the mentors that I've had in my life, because they have just poured into me in so many different ways in different areas of my life. And I feel like part of that is why I've wanted to be able to do the same for other people. That really was one of the big, for me with the books, was one way that I can help and to inspire other people by being able to pour into them through the books and the lessons that are in there. So, and then in terms of mentorship, I've had it on a business level, and then also in terms of athletics too. So one of my roles right now as a coach in the club is we have a lot of junior coaches, and having a chance to work with them to help them as they continue on in coaching has been really rewarding. In terms of my network marketing business, I mean, you're working with people all the time, helping them with their own, what their goals are and how can you help them achieve their goals. And so I've worked very closely with a lot of people in that capacity as well too. And then as an athlete as well, in terms of being able to just, again, help my teammates, learn, because I've been on both sides. I've been on the player side and I've been on the coach side as well too. So I encourage people to find a mentor, because, another saying, success leaves clues. And so if there is something you want to do in your life, find someone who's done it well, and done it in the way that you would like to do it. And then whether you plug into them through, again, podcasts, YouTubes, things like that, or it might be a direct mentorship where you're able to have them as a coach in your life too.
What scares people off sometimes is when you have to actually invest in mentorship. Because, some people, I do have some mentees that, by way of some sort of relationship that, it's not a charge or anything like that, but there's mentors out there that have coaching programs and, courses, and it's going to be an investment for you. But think about the fact that you can learn from someone's mistakes and achieve success a whole lot faster than they did. And that's an investment. That's not just a cost. That's an investment in your future. So it's just very important to really come to the table with an open mind on what you're actually accomplishing as a result of making this investment. I hear people talk about it all the time. Oh, I don't want to pay for this. You if I told you you invest $1,000 to make $1 million, would you do it?
Absolutely.
It's a hard option. Yeah.
And one thing too, I want to share, because I remember hearing this very early on. And when I say early on, we're talking 20 years ago, at least, from a mentor coach, if you will, who I invested to go to a workshop and a training. And one of the things she stated was the personal growth and investing in yourself is really the only investment that has a guaranteed infinite return. And what she meant by that and what that means is because when you invest in yourself, you control what that return on investment is going to be, because it's up to you now to take that knowledge that you just gained from that book, from that person, from that workshop, that coach, that course, whatever it is, and then apply it. And you can control what that return is going to be. And it really does come down to you as a person, as you just shared. If someone gave you an opportunity to invest 1,000 and earn $1 million, would you take that? Absolutely, all day long, knowing though that you're going to control that, how that growth is going to happen. And so I do encourage people, invest in yourself, because that is a guaranteed investment. You can control what the return is going to be.
Well said. Well said. So you talked a lot about your book series, and I don't want the episode to end without potentially talking about any other things that you might have in store for us, or just simply what you hoping to accomplish with your business. So are there any business developments or any updates that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting. I'm still figuring that out, if you will, Moses, because one of the things that was on my heart was the book series as a way to help people. I do realize a lot of people want more individual help, individual coaching. So that's in the works, if you will. But right now, it's really just the two books out there, and then there is a workbook as well. Everything's available on my website, as well as through Amazon, and just as a way to help people on their own journey. So you got to stay tuned for other things to come. But right now, it's the books, and then I have my business as well too.
It's more than enough. So nothing wrong with that. 2 books, 2 successful books, and a business to boot. So keep it up. What final advice or just thoughts would you like to share with the audience? And then also let us know how we can reach you, your website, your social media. So the floor is yours. Thank you, Phoebe.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So I'll give you the social and the website first. So it's very easy to remember. Never Quit on a Bad Day. So that is the Instagram, Facebook, as well as the website, neverquitonabadday.com. I want to encourage people to go visit the website. You can get a free chapter of the book. That is the chapter that talks about limiting language. And so that chart is in there. You get the full chapter. So encourage people to go grab that. And then let's hang out on social media. And then one final piece of advice. This is one thing that I implemented very early on when I was extremely frustrated with my business. It wasn't going as quickly as I would have liked it to. And it's the gratitude piece. And so one of the things that I did and I still have it in my phone to this day, and I want to encourage people to do it, is set an event in your calendar, a repeating event. Mine's 9:10 p.m. Pacific every single day. And it comes up and it just says, I'm so happy and grateful that. That's it. And that goes off in my phone every single day at 9:10 p.m. Pacific. And I did this in a time when I was frustrated. I wasn't getting the monetary results that I wanted in my business. But one of the things that it forced me to do was to take that moment to be intentional with, why am I grateful for my business? What are the other things that I've been able to do because I said yes to this business, in terms of the people I've met, the personal growth, the experiences. And by gratitude doesn't minimize what anyone's going through, but it allows you to shift your perspective long enough that it can help you go forward. And so I want to encourage people to do this because it's so powerful. It seems small, and it is small, but some of the smallest things have the biggest impact. And now gratitude flows throughout my day, but it started with me being intentional with it and putting that event and having that commitment. And sometimes it was 2 minutes, sometimes it was 10. Sometimes it was even longer. And I just want to encourage people to do that and watch what happens in terms of that shift. Because in those moments when I did have that, when I was grateful, even when things weren't working, different ideas started to come, different things to look at in a different way. People I hadn't followed up with, I was like, oh yeah, this person. And so I want to encourage people, whatever you're going through right now, set an event. You pick the day and the time. It should be every single day, and just have that moment of gratitude and watch what happens.
I think that's a great best practice. My wife probably wouldn't like it too much because I have a million alarms already. So I'll do it at a time. Yeah, she hates all the alarms because I have to put an alarm for everything, like vitamins, things like everything. Like it's a lot of alarms. I got a lot going on. So thank you so much for coming on the show, talking to us about your books, also your background in athletics and transition to entrepreneurship. I mean, it's truly an inspiring story. So I just want to say thank you again. And I hope the audience goes out immediately and goes grabs your book and also visit you on your social media and website. So thank you so much. And we're out.